you know how much I respect you, but let's be honest here.
I don't need to be corrected, and I don't need to be told I'm dishonest, Karen. But by all means, go ahead.
I didn't say it. I said let's be honest with the American people here.
I am.
Well,
you ought to
the
try
CR that I'm doing it right now, brother.
So, smug MAGA guy Scott Jennings showed up on Caitlin Collins' show to argue about the government shutdown. You know, the one Republicans could literally end anytime they wanted. But instead of owning up, people like Jennings and MAGA Mike Johnson keep trying to spin it like it's somehow the Democrats' fault. In this video, we're checking out some clips from CNN where Scott Jennings goes head-to-head with Karen Finny on Caitlin Collins' show, and of course, I've got a lot to say about it. Let's get into it.
White House is arguing today.
Well, the president did try to bring them into the room the other day, and they wouldn't budge. I mean, look, the facts here are pretty simple. The Republican Party has put on the floor and voted for a clean, continuing resolution, no changes. These are Biden budget numbers, by the way, and numbers that Democrats have voted for 13 times. Nothing up our sleeves here, Caitlin. They're trying to keep the government open long enough to negotiate things like the health care issue, which you were just debating, which I actually think maybe Republicans will wind up dealing on that. But they're not going to do it under duress, and they're not going to do it under threat of rolling back all the Medicaid reforms that were done this summer. So I think President Trump tried to bring the Democrats in. And at the end of the day, I think the American people know here they're looking at two parties. One's trying to do a bunch of funny business. One's trying to keep the doors open. And right now, I don't think the funny business side is winning in the eyes of the American people.
Karen, what's your view on that?
Well, I just want to correct something. You know, Scott, you know how much I respect you, but let's be honest here.
I don't need to be corrected, and I don't need to be told I'm dishonest, Karen. But by all means, go ahead.
I didn't say it. I said let's be honest with the American people here.
I am.
You ought to try CR that I'm doing it right now, brother. So the CR is that the Republicans have proposed is actually not clean. It's pretty dirty because it includes the $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts that the American people themselves have made clear they do not like. So it is not the same. I think it would be a very different moment and conversation if literally we were talking about what was passed in 2024. That is not the actual fact of the case. The fact of the case is that the measure is something that, again, the American people themselves have said they do not like. The other piece of this is, I think Democrats have a clear, concise message in terms of health care. Think about this. Republicans are on the side of saying we have to protect these tax cuts for billionaires. That's going to impact the wealthiest 1%. Democrats are saying we want to protect health care for over 20 million American families. And I agree with what, I was glad Senator Smith pointed out. I also just got my email today about my health care and choosing a plan. So people are already seeing that their costs are going to go up starting in January 2026. So I think Democrats feel pretty strong about this because the politics have changed. And, the last thing I would just say on this, my first government shutdown, Scott, I know you've been through a few of them too, was in the Clinton administration. And the kind of backslapping, oh, we're just joking that we heard from the vice president today. Well, we heard that from Newt Gingrich, and he was, bracing for the fight. And we all know how that worked out. I don't think the American people like seeing the president make light of their health care or their jobs.
Scott, you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. Look, we're stunned. I'll just be honest with you. We're stunned. The Democratic constituencies are principally immigration populations and government workers. And right now,
I'm a Democrat, and I'm not an immigrant, and I'm not a government worker.
You're putting one on top of yourself. You're putting one on top of the other.
My mother is a Democrat. She's not an immigrant. She's not a government worker.
This is what your party relies on, and you've closed shop on government in Washington, D.C., and eventually they're going to get tired of it. There is no reason this government cannot be left
Americans open. Who voted for.
It's honestly hilarious how Scott Jennings, with that smug little grin of his, gets so worked up whenever someone tells him to just be honest. The irony is wild because this guy might be one of the most dishonest people on TV. He's constantly showing up on Caitlin Collins' show on CNN or over on Abby Phillips' show, and every single time all he does is twist the facts. It's pure spin, nonstop misinformation and political theater. He's not debating in good faith. He's just a smug fake propagandist pretending to be serious. And the funniest part? He's out here talking about how the president wanted everyone to unite, while Trump is literally telling Republicans not to even talk to Democrats. Jennings knows that's a lie, but he plays innocent like he's shocked anyone would question his honesty. The whole act is ridiculous. Scott Jennings is easily one of the most dishonest voices in the media. That fake smirk, that arrogant tone, it's just unbearable to watch.
For Kamala Harris, we're all immigrants?
No, I'm saying
that's not true.
I'm saying I'm listening to Democratic arguments about most policy issues, and I'm looking at Democratic energy, and it mostly has to do with things to do with immigrants, illegal and some legal, and things to do with government bureaucrats. And right now, you're putting one of your constituencies out of business.
Can I say one thing, which is that
the Trump administration and MAGA guys like Scott Jennings are basically trying to throw an entire group of people under the bus. Federal workers. And honestly, let's be real, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a federal worker. These are hardworking people just doing their jobs, yet folks like Jennings act like they're the enemy.
legally cannot get these subsidies that we're talking about.
Sure they can.
No, they can't.
No, they can't. It's federal law, Scott.
Who do you think pays when they go to the emergency room? It's the Medicaid
Scott,
emergency program.
Going to the emergency room is not getting an Obamacare subsidy.
You guys are conflating. You guys are conflating these issues. You're conflating these issues.
And you're being dishonest with
the subsidies are a separate issue. The Medicaid program cuts are a different thing.
Right, but I'm talking about subsidies.
And the Obamacare stuff are two different issues. And I said the subsidies may get negotiated over time. But what Democrats want to do is roll back what the Republican Medicaid reforms were. They want, look, I don't understand why everybody's so mad. For time immemorial, Democrats have argued that it's good. It's good for illegal immigrants to get Medicaid. Every candidate for president in 2020 raised their hand for it. In the big, beautiful bill debate, they argued it was good policy. I can't believe there's an about-face of the Democratic Party on it today.
Hold on. I got a question for Karen, but Scott, I will say, people who are in the country illegally also can't get Medicaid.
Sure they can. Sure they can.
They can't get Medicaid.
They also can't register to vote. They also can't register to vote, but we just found one in Maryland who was running the Des Moines school system.
Oh my God, one!
I mean, I'm telling you, you guys say these things can't happen, and then they happen.
Scott, but I'm just saying it's federal law. And
you can run cover. You can run cover for it if you want, but they do get federal tax money. They get federal tax money. Ask Jake. He had it on today.
I'm just saying it's against federal law to do that.
It is.
Karen, can I ask you, because one thing that we've heard from Democrats over the last several months is that the president's consolidation of power is dangerous. That's how Democrats have framed this. But now what House Speaker Mike Johnson, the point he was making here last night, is that Democrats have handed the president more power by shutting the government down, because now they're canceling and stopping these contracts and saying they're going to fire a bunch of federal workers during this period. Was that a mistake in your view?
Well, but again, the president, it's a choice that the president can make. I mean, governing is all about choices, right? The leader of the country can say, hey, I'm going to protect tax cuts for billionaires, or I'm going to make sure over 20 million American families can get the subsidies they need to afford their health care and not see it double. And by the way, Russell Vought is not someone who, this government is, we know they're going to doge their way through the rest of the federal government anyway. I don't think there's much credibility in saying, hey, we're going to use this to lay people off. I mean, I just want to consider, it's a different pot of money, but think about the optics. The White House confirmed to Fox News today that the construction of the Grand Ballroom will continue while they are talking about laying people off and potentially firing people. That is outrageous. If you're serious about negotiating, as the senator said, you don't do things like that. You say, we are going to bring everybody to the table. Let's see what we can get done. And Scott, part of the reason this issue around the ACA credits, as the senator, I think, pointed out, there's not a lot of credibility here. So let's act like adults. Let's come to the table and stop making threats about, we're going to fire these people and we're going to, you know what, you're the leader. It's your job to bring people together.
Scott Jennings is honestly the perfect face for MAGA. He embodies everything about that vibe. He's smug, always smirking, and if you watch closely, he's constantly raising his eyebrows like he's sending secret signals to someone off screen. I sometimes wonder if he tells a friend before going on air, like, hey, watch me tonight. 3 eyebrow raises means it's showtime. He does this all the time, especially on Abby Phillips' show. His head will be turned, but then he'll suddenly look straight into the camera, making those same cocky little faces just to get attention. MAGA folks like him keep repeating the same tired lies, like this nonsense about undocumented immigrants getting Medicaid, which simply isn't true, and they know it. They push it anyway because they think it sounds like strong messaging. The reality is, this all goes back to a Reagan-era policy that allows hospitals to get reimbursed if an undocumented person ends up in the ER without insurance. That's it. Those individuals don't get Medicaid. The hospital does. But Jennings. And the MAGA crowd twist that to feed their narrative, just like they do with voter fraud. He even tries to cite one random case, and Karen Finney rightly calls him out like, "Okay, Scott, one case." Every time MAGA brings up voter fraud, studies show the same thing. Out of billions of ballots, the number of actual fraudulent votes is microscopic, usually just someone making an honest mistake. And ironically, when fraud does happen, it's often Republicans behind it. But of course, they never talk about that. Jennings is pure propaganda. He'd fit right in with those old-school misinformation pushers from decades ago, twisting facts to fit an agenda. So, what do you think? Do you agree with Karen Finney calling him out? Or are you siding with the smug spin from Scott Jennings? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, everyone.